Hi, I'm Steve Farrell, co-founder and worldwide executive director of Humanities Team. Welcome to the 2022 Global Oneness Summit. This is our 13th year hosting the Global Oneness Summit, and this is the lead panel. Our theme this year is Birthing a New World. This is truly happening. It's already begun, and as you'll see during the summit, it's going to be a lot of powerful, important, and exciting conversation on the topic. This panel is called The Science of Evolution and focuses on leading edge research that is birthing important new applications and industries in the world. The invitation during this panel: understand the leading edge science contributing to the birthing process of whole new industries that will remake the world around us. The science of many different disciplines affirm we are part of a universal presence. In a sense, we are all like waves under the ocean, a cosmic or universal whole. This panel will explore the science of what is coming next as we come to understand we are all sovereign to one body that we can call universe, cosmos, or something else. I'm now going to introduce our special guests on this panel. First, I'll introduce Gregg Braden. Gregg Braden is a 5-time New York Times best-selling author, scientist, international educator, and renowned as a pioneer in the emerging paradigm based on science, social policy, and human development. His work reveals deep insights into our origin, our potential, and how these understandings inform the policies underlying everyday life and the emerging world. To date, Gregg's research has led to 15 film credits and 12 award-winning books now published in over 40 languages. And welcome to the Global Oneness Summit, Gregg.
Steve, I am thrilled to be with you. It's good to see you. Nassim, my brother, it's good to see you as well. I'm honored to share this virtual stage with you. And Steve, I just want to thank you and Humanities Team for putting this together. It's a really important conversation that we have, and it's really important to have it in an honest way. And I'm excited to see where we go with this today. Thank you.
Me too. And let me now give a proper introduction to Nassim Haramein. Nassim Haramein has spent more than 30 years researching and discovering connections in physics, mathematics, geometry, cosmology, quantum mechanics, biology, and chemistry, as well as anthropology and archaeology. These studies led Haramein to groundbreaking theories, published papers, and patented inventions in unified physics, which are now gaining worldwide recognition and acceptance. And welcome to the Global Oneness Summit. Nassim, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Steve. So great to be here with you both. And thank you, Gregg. It's been a while I've seen you, so it's so good to see you, brother. And I'm excited. Thank you for having us.
All right, let's jump in. Wow, a lot of important conversation we're going to get to. So, Gregg, you've collaborated with Humanities Team on a free program that's a gift to all who registered for the 2022 Global Oneness Summit. It gets into the science of emerging industries as our world becomes more conscious and evolves to the next level. Do you want to briefly share why this program is important?
Sure, Steve. Well, this is a big topic. You know, it's no secret to anyone viewing this program that our world is changing. Even people that used to doubt that was the case, I think are no longer in that camp. We all know something's up. We are moving forward. We can't go back to a world that no longer exists. And for many people, the uncertainties of what lies ahead of us is concerning. It's frightening. It can be scary. What I think is important to know is that we already have the solutions to all the big problems in the world. The technological solutions already exist, and they have for quite some time. I think one of the biggest leaps, Steve, is the leap in thinking, the way we've been taught to think about our lives and our relationship to the world. Now, I think for many people, this has got to be the first step in embracing the beautiful world, the new world that's emerging, and the new technologies that are available to us. It all begins with the way we think about ourselves and our relationship to the world. So just an example of that, we are the product of generations that have been led to believe in scarcity and separation. We've been led to believe that we live in what's called a zero-sum world, where someone must lose for others to win, whether it's business or finance, or whether it's food security for the world or energy for the world. The new technologies are changing that way of thinking. And what they're showing us, Steve, it's possible to elevate the standard of living for every man, woman, and child on the face of the earth everyone without compromising our relationship to the earth. That's very different than what we've been doing is elevating the standard for a few at the cost of many. So I think as our community recognizes that to embrace new technologies doesn't mean that someone has to lose or that we have to deplete resources in the world as we've been led to believe, that's a huge step in allowing us to move forward and to embrace the new technologies. What I keep coming back to, Steve, the bottom line for me is how can we solve the problems that we now find at our doorstep unless we're honest about these problems? And there's a very fine line where science and the way that we're taught to think about science through the textbooks, the classrooms, through mainstream media, there's a fine line in terms of how complete that information is and when we share it. So I think what's important here is to know that we've got to be honest with ourselves about the world and about our relationship to the world so that we can embrace the new technologies. So I think one of the places, there's so many exciting places where this is happening. And I'm just at a very high level. It's happening with energy and the way we create energy in our world, and whether it's localized energy or baseline energy or base load energy. It's happening with agriculture. It's happening with medicine or healing so that we need less medicine. And that's a very, very different way of thinking. It is certainly happening in the way that we're looking at growing our food so that we are less vulnerable to climate conditions in the world and have the ability to provide the nutrition for everyone in the world. And the United Nations is very clear. There's no shortage of food, Steve. What's happening is the food does not get to the people that need it because their needs have not been a priority. And the same thing is true with energy. We've had the technology to create clean, green, sustainable energy, emitting zero greenhouse gases. We began to understand these technologies over 70 years ago, Steve, and they are stepping stones to the ultimate forms of energy that I know Nassim's going to talk about. Stepping stones, the ultimate ways of feeding ourselves. But the point is that we have been locked into a mindset of scarcity, and that scarcity creates fear and a reluctance to embrace the new technologies that are available. And here's the mind blower. Many of those external technologies reflect the principles that we harbor within us, the internal technologies of our own bodies, of the way our cells function. And as we begin to mimic our inner technology in the world around us, we find these beautiful new solutions to create precisely the world that we know in our hearts is possible. So I'm going to stop there for right now. We can come back to it, but we could go on and on with this. It's such an exciting time because the potential for so many new possibilities. It's not in the future, Steve. It's here right now. It's not only at our fingertips, it's in the palm of our hands. All we have to do is say yes.
All right, we're saying yes. Awesome. Boy, we've set the table well. Thank you, Gregg. So I also want to share that when you registered for the summit, you were given free registration to this program. So be sure to enjoy it when it becomes available in a few weeks. So first of all, Nassim, I want to congratulate you on your Unified Science Award that we presented you on Friday, September 23rd. Wow, that was
Thank
really
you.
good.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. I appreciate. It's always nice to see the appreciation come back after some 30 years. It's exciting. A lot of things are exciting right now in terms of our capacity to get new information from some of the best experiments on the planet, but as well some of the developments that are occurring in the world of science and technology development that are not necessarily clearly defined in the standard model, or that are not being publicized, but that are happening behind the scenes. So that's really important for your listeners to know that there's something that's happening behind the scene that is really transformative. Even if it, if it looks like, I don't know, like the Congress having a serious discussion with the the top military personnel about, unidentified objects flying in our airspace and so on, which is happening and is not really getting the attention it should be getting, because really that is something that can really change the way we look at ourselves and the world around us, kind of like open our mind to like a larger community. But as well, the science that's emerging, that comes with that higher level of understanding, with what I call going vertical, not being so horizontal, not thinking about things from the horizontal plane, but from the vertical plane, like zooming out, from our daily life, and then realizing that there's a whole world out there. And some of the new telescopes that were put up, are helping us to see that. And so it really kind of is in an exciting time in history right now.
Yes, it is. And viewers, also, one of your gifts when you registered for the Global Oneness Summit is the recording of that Unified Science Award ceremony with Nassim. And make sure to open that gift and watch that ceremony. It's astounding, really, the research that Nassim and his team are doing. And in these months ahead, you wait and see more of what's coming from Nassim and his lab. So Nassim, your lab in San Clemente, California, that focuses on unified science, is discovering some of the leading applications that are part of this birthing process that we've been describing. Can you share a little about your research process?
Well, it's been a long journey, and I was able to bring together a bunch of different scientists to help me kind of deck it out and put it in the correct form. And with the help of Dr. Alerol and William Brown, that the public in general knows quite well, and so on, we've been going at it. And the last 5 years have been really, really productive in terms of getting that all worked out. And I know I've been promising this paper for a while, and it's just it's a tough job, I assure you, to put this together, but it will be coming out soon, in the next few months. And it really is, I finally found the last piece that I was missing to feel complete. It was in there, it just wasn't as integrated in all of the mechanical functions of space-time that I wanted to, and I couldn't find what was missing. And I found that thing that was missing, and it just plopped in like a perfect puzzle piece, and it was just beautiful. That happened only on the 16th of this month, September 16th, and so I'm gonna call it Alpha Day for posterity. And basically now it's we have an understanding of the nature of reality from the most subtle part of our reality at the Planck scale, that's billions of times smaller than an atom, all the way to the universal scale, with all of the scales in between, and their mass, their energy, the nature of electromagnetic fields, the nature of gravity, and all of the constants of physics that emerge from these two relationships. Really, in technical term, we could call it the impedance of space in two different axes, one generating the gravitational function, and the other axis giving the electromagnetic functions, or Maxwell's equations on one side and relativistic equations on the other. And it's beautiful. It's just remarkable. And when you put the two together, all of a sudden you get the dynamics of space, the functions of space that are like completely like fluid dynamics function. Like think of like water going down the drain, or like water swirling as it goes down a river, and these beautiful vortices that it produces. And those are really the way things work in the universe. We're made out of these vortices. We are vortices of fluids oscillating with, minerals and so on. And it really gives you a beautiful and clear picture of the nature of creation and its forces, and why these constants in physics keeps coming out and you don't know where they come from.
Wow. So a couple things here. One is, if you don't know, Nassim and Gregg created a free program called Secret Scientific Discoveries that are changing everything that gets into these things that Nassim and Gregg are talking about. You can find the free program on the Humanities Team website. The other, as I mentioned just a moment ago, is stay tuned to Nassim and the Resonance Science Foundation. There's some big things coming in terms of opening people's eyes to ultimate reality and how things really work. Okay, Gregg, you've been collaborating with Humanities Team on a masterclass that shares we already have solutions when we look to the future. Do you feel confident about this, and perhaps you can share a little more?
Yeah, Steve, thank you. Well, first, Nassim, thank you for everything that you just shared. And I learn something from you every time I'm with you, and today is no exception. And for our viewers that may not be accustomed to seeing Nassim and I working together, July of this year of 2022 is our 31-year anniversary, Nassim. We met at a little cafe in northern New Mexico 31 years ago. I know my hair was longer and a little bit darker. You haven't changed so much.
I got more lines in my face.
Okay.
And I learned something every time we talk together as well. So it's such a great exchange. It's
it means so much to me. So thank you for the work you're doing. And Steve, in answer to the question, and what Nassim is talking about is such a beautiful example. We are conditioned to believe that we are this high-tech society, and we do have an advanced technology that is inundating us and across the board in every way we can think of. But when we really think about it, what's so interesting to me is that much of the new technology over the last 40 years, it isn't really new. It is simply improving upon principles that were identified earlier in the 20th century and refining those principles. A perfect example is the internal combustion engine. I mean, we're still using internal combustion engines. They're really advanced, they work really well, but it's the same principle. Computers, computer chips, and memory. We're using the same kind of memory we were using back in the 50s. It's just faster, it's more compact. And the beauty of what Nassim is doing and what we're talking about here today is that these are new discoveries for the first time in a very long time that open the door to an era of new applications that take us, light years beyond where we've been in the past. So, I know that sounds kind of nebulous. So let me just give a concrete example. When it comes to energy, and I want to be really clear, I'm a scientist. I love solar energy. I love solar panels. I have 19 solar panels running the complex where I am right now. But solar energy, as it's being offered today, cannot be the solution to the global energy needs for a number of reasons. One of those reasons is that green energy is only green when it's functioning. When those solar panels are on the roof creating electricity, it is a horribly dirty energy and fossil fuel intensive to create those solar panels. And at the end of the cycle, when they're being recycled, now there's a problem with a 25-year lifespan, solar panels in landfills, toxic rare earth minerals leaching into the groundwater and into the agriculture. So they have a place for us, but they cannot be the solution. So what would you do if I said to you that we have had for over 70 years a form of energy that creates zero greenhouse gases? It's not dependent on climate, on hot or cold or wind or sun, that cannot melt down like a Fukushima reactor, that cannot be weaponized like the plutonium that comes from uranium, that the spent fuel becomes the new fuel in the new fuel cycle, that it is inexpensive, it's abundant on every continent of the earth. When you hear that, you think, wow, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Why aren't we using it? And this is one example of a technology that we have had for quite a while. This is element 91 that I'm talking about. It was discovered as a fuel source in the Manhattan Project. And that element is the element that's called thorium. So we have proven that thorium can be used to generate what's called base load electricity. We can supplement it with wind and solar where it makes sense, or hydro or geothermal. But a base load electricity, and we've had this for many years. The plants in the United States were shut down. They ran from the 60s to the 80s, and they were shut down in the 1980s. And we went to a fossil fuel intensive economy right around that time for a lot of reasons. So I'm not saying it's right, wrong, good, or bad. What I'm saying is we've had options and we have them today. And these are stepping stones to the ultimate sources of energy that Nassim is working on, and I believe will be offered very soon in our lifetimes. So if we want these solutions now, it requires a different way of thinking. And by the way, Steve, it doesn't demonize fossil fuels at all. As a scientist, one of the things that fascinated me was the fact that fossil fuels, crude oil, is one of the few elements or components that we cannot synthesize. We can't make it. And if it's not there, what a lot of people don't realize, every day in our lives, over 6,000 uses we wouldn't for crude oil. It's so precious. We need it so much. We need to stop burning it because it cannot be replaced for things like the computers that we're using right now, and many of the medical applications that people's lives depend upon. So it's only a problem when it's being burned. So this is just one example of a technology that is already proven. And this is why I said in the first segment, we already have the solutions. It's about making those solutions a priority in our lives and making our human family, making the global family the priority rather than prioritizing economy, and finances. And, we all know that in our lives, but now we're down to the wire where we've got to do this. So I just want to give one concrete example, Steve, of why I'm so optimistic about the future, because that principle applies to agriculture. We can talk about that. It applies to medicine, applies to healing, applies to economics, applies to finances, because we know that the world's economic system is buckling, near collapse in many respects right now. So it's important to know these things so that we're not frightened by the change, and we know that we have new technologies to embrace, and we can let the old ones go gracefully. I'll stop there with that, but you can tell I'm excited about it because there's so much potential in what we're talking about.
Yeah, boy, and with there's as we know, there's a lot of hand wringing out in the world. So you injected some hope and enthusiasm and possibility into the conversation out in the world. Thank you, Gregg. And again, Gregg is working on a couple of programs that go deeper into what we're talking about here. Nassim, I'm going to go in a different direction with you because you are, as we know, just talking before we came on this program, this whole unified field theory is getting ready to launch in a big, big way. And possibly there are academic and accreditation and all kinds of possibilities that are out ahead. Can you talk a little bit about where we are? We talking about exciting possibilities. You've got lots of them here.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots going on all at once. But yeah, I mean, of course, finishing what I'm writing and publishing it appropriately and getting it into the world. And it's not easy because, for instance, physics papers usually don't address such a large subject as unification of physics, and are usually pretty short. And this is about 200 pages right now, a few thousand equations. And so it's more like a thief. So then pieces will be removed, like the main equations will be, extracted and put into a smaller paper and then published, and then, the rest will be in annex and so on. And but we'll make it available to the public. I'm gonna with Olivier Alérol, Dr. Alérol and I will probably make videos where we're going through all the equations and explaining what they mean for the layman, so that everybody can understand, what we're talking about, because everybody can understand it. And that's the exciting part about it, is that anybody, including children, will be able to understand this. They might not understand the complexity of the equations and, the complexity of some of the concepts, but generally the fundamental function, people will understand it. But at the same time, there's, like Gregg was saying, there's developments that are happening in technology in which this new science, this new understanding of the function of space-time becomes paramount in developing technologies that have the capacity to tap into the structure of space itself. And there are passive technologies that literally produce power continuously. I mean, I have little videos, for instance, of the little crystals that I've put on the market, where you can see, I don't know if I can share screens here, but where you can see that they are continuously outputting power, for instance. And so there's like clear path to engineering. It's the baby steps right now, but there's a clear path to engineering from this theory. It's not just theory, it's not just philosophy, but it's actually something that's gonna run your world eventually. And it will run your car, it will run your house, it will run your spaceship if you have one, and it really has the potential to transform humanity at a very profound level. And like Gregg was saying, it's critical that we have a change in the way we think of ourselves, the way we think of our world, and the way we interact with each other, so that this kind of technology can emerge. That's actually the crux. Making it is not that difficult if you have the right theories, but the crux is actually having an environment in which it can emerge, a social environment in which it can emerge, and an understanding from that perspective of an abundance of energy exists in the universe, and we can tap into it. The universe didn't put us on a planet with finite resources so that we could overgrow it and then die off. Like that, there's actually, a path to a higher level of interaction. And it leads as well to gravity control, our capacity to travel through the solar system, even through the galaxy and so on. And it like all of a sudden opens doors that we couldn't even imagine today. So it's really important, because every individual that makes that transformation, that goes vertical, has that makes a big difference in the morphogenetic field of our planet, to allow this kind of technology, to allow this kind of transformation to happen for humanity as a whole.
Wow, exciting. Yeah. And with, again, the challenges out in the world, the hand wringing, et cetera, that these breakthrough discoveries are surfacing. Wow, is this happening at the right time or what? And in reading like the biography of Albert Einstein and then Leonardo da Vinci, both Einstein, this underlying unity, just to his grave, he was trying to pull those equations together, couldn't quite get there. And you and your team are bringing it there.
Einstein was just missing a few little pieces in order to do it. And one of them actually was believing in the result of his own equations, which had to do with singularity and black holes, which at the time had not been discovered, meaning like his own theory predicted the existence of black holes and singularity, but it hadn't been observed at the time. It was unlikely that it existed. In general, it was thought to be kind of like a weird part of the equation, a part that was not real. Just as the linearization of Maxwell's equations produce potential vectors that were thought to not be real, just conceptual. And then now we're discovering, oh no, those are real effects, scalar components to the electromagnetic field. And when you put these things together, all of a sudden you get a completely different view. And that complete different view doesn't just mean that like we understand the cosmos better. It means we understand us better, at a very profound level, like because we're made of the particles and these singularities. And so it's really important to understand them.
Yeah. Wow. Well, again, very exciting, this research you're bringing forward. And I know from the earlier programs we were creating together that your equations go to 13-digit accuracy, 13 digits. So that's 0.000. That's amazing. And that
on multiple constants, on actually all of the constants that we have in physics today, that involves the radius, the electron, the radius, the proton, their masses, the Rydberg constant, all these constant, alpha, and so on, mu, and so on. And those are very, very well measured. And if a theory predicts one of them correctly, it's really remarkable already. Coming from first principle of a theoretical tenet. So when it predicts all of them and nails the numbers for all of them, then you've got something powerful, and you've got the right answer. But what's beautiful is that as you understand it, as you integrate it, you can feel the transformation in your body. You can feel the transformation in your consciousness as you integrate. Oh, that's how it works. And then you start to feel how you work and how you work with the universe. And you become so much more capable of having a really meaningful interaction with this fundamental field of creation.
So, boy, it makes you anticipate for sure and smile as well. So again, thank you, Nassim. Can't wait to really see all of these videos and these your white paper, all of this material you're going to be bringing forward very shortly. Gregg, I want to go over to you, and I want to go in a slightly different track here with you too, because your research as well is incredibly enlightening in so many different directions, not the least of which where it talks about human potential, and that we're just scratching the surface on human potential. Can I come over to you to just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. Before I do, I just want to tie into what Nassim just shared, which is such a perfect illustration of why conversations like this are so important. What Nassim just said is that the environment within which these discoveries are shared is key in having them accepted and embraced. Einstein's a perfect example. He was a product of the thinking of the late 1800s, early 1900s, that we live in a world of separation. Everything's separate from everything else. And even though his equations were telling him something different, his programming, his cultural programming, consciously and subconsciously, are so powerful that they led him to doubt his own work. And to some degree, that's true for all of us. We are all led to believe that we live in a world of a limit, and where our resources are finite, and we're trying to solve the problems, we're thinking along the same lines of the thinking that created the problems. And this is why I said that in our first segment, I think that probably the most important thing that we can each do in our own lives to contribute to this new world that's emerging is to recognize that we live in a world that supports life. We now know that the universe is alive and conscious and intelligent. It's not a dead, inert universe. The best science, physics, is telling us this. We talk about this in other programs. We now know that the human body is not the product of random mutations and lucky biology, that there is some kind of an intervention, some kind of an intentionality underlying our existence. The reverse engineering of the genome and forensic genetics is telling us this. It's published in peer-reviewed papers. It's just not being shared in mainstream textbooks, classrooms, and documentaries. So as we open ourselves to information like this, that there is an infinite source of energy, and it cannot be out there because we are part of the field. So we are that infinite source of energy. And this comes back to what you're saying, Steve. The science is giving us a beautiful and empowering new way to think about ourselves. When I was in school back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, I was taught that we are these frail, powerless beings, and that we need something outside of us to be healthy in life and to be successful in the world. And technology was elevated to a point of almost godlike existence, to the point where we rely on the technology to save us. And now we're being told that our biology will be replaced by nanotechnology, by sensors, by artificial intelligence, by chemicals in our blood, to the point where Ray Kurzweil says, the futurist, director of engineering at Google, he's telling us that by, I think, 2045, we are going to be living in synthetic bodies that aren't subject to the world that we now have, and the frailties of the world. And, I like knowing those possibilities exist. I don't think they're true for all of us. Because as we embrace the deep truth of what it means to be human, what we discover is that we literally, Steve, this isn't a metaphor, we literally are a soft technology. We are a highly advanced, technologically sophisticated, soft technology. Every one of the cells in our body, 50 trillion cells average human body, every one of those cells functions as a capacitor, as a resistor, as a transistor. We release photons of information and light. We receive photons of information and light. We are constantly in communion with the field that we are part of. Every cell in our body functions just the way super memory, just the way the memory on a computer chip works, and the recall, because the outer technology mimics what we already do in our bodies, except we do it better. So here's where it gets really interesting. Are the computer chips and the AI and the nanotechnology, are they efficient? Absolutely. I'm totally in agreement. They are totally efficient. Are they fast? Absolutely. But here's the thing. All of that technology is limited by the physics of the elements that they are made of, and they cannot go beyond those limits. When we look at our soft technology, we're not talking about chips and sensors and AI. We're talking about neurons, cell membranes, ion potentials across cell walls that we self-regulate. What are our limits? Here's the thing, Steve. We don't know what the upper limit of human potential is. Our neurons, we used to believe, could only conduct 40 cycles per second. 40 hertz was as much as we could hold. And the Tibetans showed us then that we could go to 80. And then they went to 100, and they had to have a new brain state called the gamma brain state. And then they doubled it to 200 cycles per second. And we had to have a hyper gamma brain state. And we're now moving beyond that. We do not know how scalable the human body is, our nervous system, our neurons, the ability of our heart to function in the ways that we're now understanding, much more than just pumping blood. So what I'm sharing in the work that you're talking about is, that's interesting up here. How do we apply it in our lives? There are direct, concrete applications based upon the wisdom of 5,000 years of human experience, we self-regulate this soft technology through thought, feeling, emotion, belief, breath, and focus, and different combinations of those things. And when we awaken the deep truth of the potential of our humanness and what it means to be human, what we find is that external technology that is being touted as our savior, that external technology, it's still out there and we can still use it if we choose, but we feel less driven, less urgency to bring that technology into our bodies because we recognize that we are the technology. And this is part of the mind shift that opens the door to the possibility to receive the kind of technology that Nassim and his team are talking about. It's a huge leap. It's a very different way of thinking, and I believe that we're at a point in our civilization where we can accept and embrace that way of thinking because we've been conditioned all of our lives to do just this. So I hope that makes sense, Steve. And there's so much more we could talk about here, but it's a beautiful conversation, and I really appreciate the opportunity to have it.
Yeah. Oh boy, me too. Talking about an enlightening and uplifting conversation. So I'm sure viewers are all agreeing. So, boy, and this hour has gone fast. Nassim, do you have a final invitation for viewers, and also can you share where people can go to follow your work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's really important for people to get involved. Like there's so much to learn. There's so much to integrate at this time in history, and there is so much information out there, and you have to kind of pick and choose because it's, there's information out there that can really kind of bum you out. Like it's easy to get bummed out, and there's at the same time this emerging beautiful path that Craig so eloquently just described, this possibility for the human potential to completely, blow the top, off this current organization and system we live in. And really, when you think about it, technology is really like a mirror to our level of awareness, our level of consciousness, our level of capacity to actually integrate the universe we're in, and to actually experience ourselves as part of that great mechanism of creation. And so I think one thing we did is that we offered our unified course for free on our platform at the Resonance Science Foundation. So if you go to resonancescience.org, you can register for that course. And we last year added the modules. So there's module 7 to the course now. So there's 7 modules. It's quite in depth. It has all the reference and everything. And it's easy to read. It's easy to go through. But because we've had children do it and so on. But as well, it gives you all the tools you need that you can go and research yourself and go and expand on it, and you can interact with the other participants. There's over 120,000 participants right now, more than 80 countries, and so on. So it's an incredible opportunity to really interact and meet people from all around the world. And as well, as soon as I've published my next paper, then there will be a module 8. And so people will be able to go there and get, step-by-step layman explanation of what just got published. And it's going to be important for people to understand this because, yes, of course, it will run the technology of the future because it's literally like the owner's manual to the universe. But as well, it will help people get a deeper feeling for how to interact with the universe so that you can maximize your potential. And when Gregg was talking, I was thinking about what a few weeks ago, I was reading material about the history of certain theories about the brain, and how this urban myth got popularized that well, I mean, at the time it was a valid theory that we only use 10% of our cognitive powers or of our brain, and so on, and how, you know, now we can see with the technology we have that actually all the brain is active at all times, and how so the interpretation that maybe that theory is wrong is that we are using all of our brain. And I was reading this and I was thinking, wow, you know, it's not because there's neurons firing all around our brain that we're using our full potential, right? And so, because consciousness, right, deep level of awareness, deep level of consciousness might have some relationship with the brain activity, but your level of awareness, like the potential is of the awareness of your existence. Like these equations I'm about to publish show clearly, very, very clearly, that all scales are embedded within each other, and that all energy levels are related to each other across from the Planck scale to the universe, and you're part of it. And so you have access to this infinite amount of information, an infinite amount of energy. And it's really important for, and there's, you know, and you understanding how that all works really helps you to get into that level of connection, so that you can get that level, like, so that you can fulfill your highest purpose. And it can lead to things like immortality, for instance, you know, like just to go way out there. And you might say, what is he talking about? He's insane. But, you know, you might think immortality is impossible. But there's multiple creatures on our planet that are immortal. You know, just look up on Google immortal animals, and you'll find that there's like jellyfish and, you know, all kinds of things, including crabs and all this, that have, you know, regenerative capabilities and that don't necessarily die or need to die. They might die because they got squished by something or ate by something, or, you know, but naturally they can replenish. And so the potential even of our cellular metric, you know, is not at its full potential currently, but I really believe we can get there.
So boy, viewers are smiling. We all are. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, so I mentioned anticipation. So thank you. What an incredible invitation that was, Nassim. Thank you. And Gregg, I'm going to come over to you. Your final, just brief invitation to viewers, and then how people can follow your work.
Well, I am happy to share that, and I'm one of those people that's smiling because I love to see Nassim so happy and so excited about what he's sharing. So Nassim, if I Google immortality, am I going to see Nassim and Gregg and Steve among the creatures that are
Hopefully.
listed? Oh, after the paper's published. Now, Steve, I think what I'd like to leave our viewers with, first, I want to thank everyone for sharing a part of your day with us. We know everybody's busy, you got a full plate, means a lot, and we appreciate your trust. And I think the message is to not be afraid of what we don't know, and to not be afraid of an uncertain future. Because we're living a rare, precious moment in the history of civilization and the history of our planet, where multiple converging cycles are upending everything that we believed we knew to be true It's part of a natural rhythm, natural cycles, and then there's the unpredicted human response to those natural rhythms and cycles. And what we're saying here is that we are supported, and I'm going to go out on a limb and even use the word loved. I believe that we are loved by the universal frequencies of our planet, zero point 0.1 hertz, the fundamental frequency to optimize heart and brain communication, that we live in a world and in a universe where life is supported and abundant. And in that universe, it makes sense that we would have solutions that uplift everyone's lives and allow us to move forward in a healthy way. And that requires the shift in thinking. So I appreciate the opportunity to give people the reasons to make that shift. And we've just barely scratched the surface in what we're doing here today, Steve. If people want to find out more about what I'm doing, www.greggbraden.com. It's Gregg, 2 G's, Braden.com. And I'll stop there because everything I would say to you is on that website. Nassim, it's good to see you, brother. Thank you. And Steve, I appreciate it. And your team behind the scenes. My love to everybody working behind the scenes to make this possible.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank
Well,
you.
this has this been the lead-off panel for this summit or what? So thank you so much, Nassim and Gregg. Wow. We have really set the stage for this 10-day Global Oneness Summit called Birthing a New World. And that's what we've been talking about, haven't we? You know, with an unbelievable breakthrough science. So as we wrap up, we want to emphasize that Nassim and Gregg's research shares we are sovereign to one body, and we can call that body anything that we want, including universe, cosmos, divine presence, creator, or something else. We are part of the one, the field, the divine. In fact, this research says the field resides within each of us. This is part of what Nassim and Gregg have been talking about. We need to only tap into this powerful energy. Another thing that they've both been talking about. This has been, there are many empowering ramifications for our lives in what we've just been discussing. And I know all of you viewers get that here from this discussion. Our humanities team mission is to make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040 in just 18 years. And if we're going to do this, we need to pick up the pace. And PACE stands here for Planetary Awakening, Conscious Evolution. We invite you and everyone to join with us. Gregg and Nassim are in. Many of the thought leaders and partners we work with are devoted to this big pivot that's taking place in the world now that we've been discussing during this panel. This is our moment. Let's create a sustainable and flourishing Earth. There is no time to waste. I know we all can see that. You can learn more about this Humanities Team initiative that is part of the Global Oneness Summit. It's called Changing Humanity's Future. You can Google that, Changing Humanity's Future. You'll even get Phil in and it'll go straight to what this initiative is about. Or you can just go to changinghumanity'sfuture.org. So a big, as we wrap up, thank you again to Nassim, Gregg, all of the speakers that are part of this Global Oneness Summit, the hosts, the affiliate partners, my humanities team partners who work year-round putting this summit together to create this Global Oneness Summit, this in our 13th year. Last and most important, I want to thank all of you, the viewers, for spending quality time with us here during this program. Boy, we're off to a racing start, but there's lots more to come. So stay tuned here for the next 10 days. Next, we're going to go over to Adam Hall for a brief welcome message.